Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic light.
Hi everyone and welcome back. My name is Joelle Fawcett and I am your host and the founder of the SoL Method, where our mission is to be your guide to heal from the past, be at peace in the present, and create a future you love. And welcome to Season 2, Episode 8 of the SoL Method podcast, titled Spirit Speaker. And we are continuing on in our mini series that we started in the last episode. So in the first few episodes of this season, we talked a lot about change, a lot about manifestation, a lot about how the universe uses change in our lives. And then with Halloween coming into the picture, we took a pivot. And now we are in a mini series, which is all about the supernatural, about the origins of Halloween, about spirit. And I'm going to share today about some of the work that I do as a psychic medium. And the purpose for this is really to demystify what seems to be a very mystical process, okay? Because like the origins of Halloween, this is a topic where there is just a ton of misinformation out there on the internet. And like I talked about this last time, where we all know we can find anything we want on the internet, right? Like you can research anything you want to prove to yourself and you'll find proof on the internet. So looking at something that could be really mystical, like talking to spirit, talking to the universe, working with what we might call ghosts, I really want to break it down and talk to you guys about this, because here's the reality, and this is going to be the foundation for this podcast episode, is that everybody, every human being on the planet is born with the ability to speak with spirit. Okay, it's not certain people, it's not unique to a handful of select born. Everybody has the ability to do this. All right, it is a part of the human condition. And the reason why every single person has the ability to speak with spirit is because, like I've talked about many times before, we all are born with a piece of God, a piece of spirit planted in our hearts. That is the piece where our desires are planted. That is the piece that is wanting to be made manifest here on this earth. I truly believe that a part of God, a part of spirit, is planted inside of each and every person for the purpose of making that aspect of spirit manifest here on this earth through that person. Right? So, within that, we all have the ability to communicate with spirit. And this ability is based in our intuition, right? Have you guys ever had like a gut feeling? We all have, right? Even if you're watching a movie, you know when that character is walking down the dark alleyway, you get this gut feeling like she should turn around and go home, right? We all experience that. Speaking with spirit is based in intuition and in empathy, the ability to feel what someone else is feeling. And we're going to get more into that. So that's the foundation for this podcast, is that if you are interested in this, if this is something that you want to cultivate and that you want to pursue in your life, whether it's a personal relationship with spirit, or it's something where you want to start doing some of the work that I do, where you are able to support other people in communicating with spirit, you can. It's just like a muscle, to be honest with you. It's just like learning a new skill. Whether you're learning pottery, you're learning basketball, you're learning to talk with spirit. The more often you do it, the more often you work in that muscle, the easier and easier and easier it's going to be. Okay. Now, I have to give credit to two amazing women who have gone before me and have tackled this. And those two women are Gabrielle Bernstein and Marianne DeMarco. These two amazing women have written several books on this topic. They've spoken to audiences about speaking with spirit, and they've also physically done the work, right? They've been in it, doing readings, speaking with spirit guides, all the things. So, Marianne or Gabby, if you ever happen to see this, I just want you to know how incredibly grateful I am for all of the work that you have done. It has transformed so much of what I do and how I support other people around me. So, we're going to go through this in steps. Very, very basic. And again, the purpose of kind of making this black and white is for the reason that I want to demystify it. All right. I want to take it out of the woo-woo. I want to make it very concrete, something you guys can grab onto. All right. So step one, you got to believe you can do it. All right. You have to believe that somewhere in you, you can communicate with spirit. All right. And always remember, I've said this before on the podcast, energy follows intention. If you believe that you have the ability to do this, that you're learning this new skill and you're going to develop this, then it's something that will grow. Okay? And we all have doubts. We all go through that thing. We do it with everything, right? Whether you're learning something like this that may seem super metaphysical, or you're learning how to speak a new language, or you're learning a new sport. At some point along the game, you're probably going to look at yourself and feel like, oh my God, why the hell did I even start trying to do this? Or, nope, I give up. I don't want to do it anymore. Or 3, that was really dumb and I quit. Right? We've all been there. It's okay. All right. And to boost your confidence, if you're just starting out and you're thinking like, I really want to get into this. I've been interested in it. I love ghost stories. I love this idea of communicating with the metaphysical. But I really, number one, I have no idea where to start. And number 2, I'm not sure that I could really ever do that. Think about a time when your intuition has given you warning before an event occurred. Okay, because we've all had that happen, right? Like I started this podcast out with, we've all had an intuitive moment, right? Like you just knew that you should buy that house, or you knew that you should go to that party because you met your future husband or wife at that party. Or maybe the house doubled in price 3 years later, right? Or the opposite, right? Sometimes it's easier to remember the negative times intuition has sparked our interest versus the positive ones. When have you had the hair on the back of your neck stand up? When have you just had a gut feeling that something wasn't right? That you needed to make that phone call? That you should not get in that car? Right? That's your intuition. Okay, number 1, don't doubt it. When your intuition gives you a warning or pulls at you, listen. That is spirit talking to you. And more often than not, that is how spirit communicates with us just on a daily basis, is that pull or push that we feel. And we all feel that as human beings. And most of the time, I can tell you, like, oh yeah, have you ever had that weird feeling that something was off and everyone goes like, yeah, like I've experienced that before for sure. And then I'll ask that same person, has spirit ever communicate with you? And they'll be like, no. It's the same thing, folks. Okay. So you can all sit back and think about those times when intuition has communicated with you and allow that to boost your confidence. Allow that to build some belief in yourself that you can do this. If you want to, you really can do this. Okay. Now, step 2. Check your ego, check the fear. Okay. I think we all go through this phase, and you probably will too. I don't think anyone really gets out of it, of where you're learning this new skill, you're learning to talk to spirit. You might tell some friends and family about it, and it starts to become this like cool new thing that you do, right? Like, oh yeah, I do that. I do this cool metaphysical thing, right? And if you get there, and I was there, all right, I think, like I said, we all go through that thing. Spirit will remind you very quickly that having metaphysical experiences is not about making you look good. All right, it's not about being right. It's not about things happening on a specific time frame or within a time frame that you want things to happen. Okay. And you always know that you're caught in your ego if you get frustrated. All right, if you're feeling anxious, ungrounded, restless, in any state of fear, especially if you're frustrated, you're caught in your ego. Okay? There have been so many times where I've sat down with people to either do a reading or to talk about what's going on for them. And I really wanted something to happen, or I didn't want anything to happen. And in both experiences, I've had exactly the opposite of what I wanted happen. Right? There's been times where I've sat down with people to do a reading, and it's nothing. Nothing happens. Spirit doesn't want to speak. Nothing's going on. For whatever reason, that moment wasn't the moment that we were going to get the answers that spirit wanted for that person's best interest. For whatever reason, it was either quiet or we were getting something completely out of left field that wasn't related to the direction that that person wanted the reading to go. Right? Remember that spirit has that person's best interest at heart. Right? If it isn't time for that person to know certain things or have certain information, it's not going to be given to them. Remember, spirit doesn't work on the laws of this world. It doesn't work in space, and it doesn't work in time. It is beyond those things. So if we're feeling the pressure and we feel like we have to make something happen and we get frustrated, we're in our ego. We need to step back. We need to ground ourselves. We need to release all of that junk so that we can actually hear what spirit is saying. Because I can promise you, if you're in a state of ego and you're in a state of fear that you're going to look bad, fear that something negative might come through, fear that you don't know what's going on, right? When you're in that state, you can't hear authentically. Your intuition starts to shut down. It's not going to work. Okay? Now, to exit the thought process of the ego and return to love, like I said, take a few moments to ground yourself. The most important thing in that moment to remember is that it's not about you. Okay, in that moment, any way you can conjure up joy, peace, do that. Get grounded, release the junk. And once you get that out of your system, you'll feel it. And you can go back and communicate with spirit from a truly intuitive way and an authentic way. All right. Now, fear sometimes comes out of that ego place of like, oh, I want to look good. Why isn't this happening? What's wrong with me? I said I could do this and now I can't. All that stuff, right? I've been there. I get it. Sometimes I swear spirit just wants to continue to prove to me that like it's actually in control of this whole process. I'm not. Right? As much as we want to think we're in control, we are not. Sometimes it will remind me, give me a gut check. It's okay. So there's that type of fear. And then there's genuine like, oh shit, I don't know what that is, or I don't know what's happening. And there's been plenty of times that I've had these sparks of fear when I'm channeling or I'm working with spirit. And the most important thing is you trust your intuition to tell you whether or not you are actually in danger. One thing I can promise you is that if you do not go looking for trouble, trouble won't find you. All right? Energy follows intention. If you go into a reading or you go into channeling and you commit your intention to entities and spirit of the highest truth and compassion, that only things of light and love can come through to you, that's all you're going to get. It's very, very simple. Now, sometimes this fear reaction comes up simply because you see something that you don't recognize. And that's totally natural. All right. This happened to me when I was meeting one of my spirit guides for the first time. I met him in a meditation. And I was seeing myself in this forest and it was misty and I didn't really know what was going on. And he kind of came out of nowhere. And I had this experience of speaking with him, but he didn't take on a human form at first. And because of that, I was like, whoa, like, what is going on? I don't know this. Like, I don't know this form. I can't put a name to it. And because I didn't know, it was something strange to me. The automatic human reaction to that is fear. Okay, totally normal. Just because you have that fear reaction doesn't mean that what's coming towards you or speaking to you is negative. It might mean that you just don't recognize it. Right? So breathe, take your time. I can promise you that if something is truly negative or dangerous, you'll know, and you'll know to shut it down and disconnect. But again, unless you're going looking for trouble, chances are you're not going to find it. Right? Spirit doesn't work the way that it does in the movies. Okay? There are very, very few times where you have these like dark energies that are looking to like, take over someone's body. Right? It's really just, it's not a thing. Okay? There are spirits out there who will do that if you're interested in opening yourself up to that and you invite it in. Sure. But that's not like the normal. And if you're not interested in that, it's not going to come like pressing and knocking on your door constantly. All right. So the other time that I will tell you that I did experience this like type of fear was the time where I experienced external clairaudience for the first time. And we're going to talk about the clairs in a moment, but this external clairaudience came kind of out of nowhere. And I was like, whoa, like, I don't know what that is. So it just surprised me, right? That's another thing. If fear comes up, it could just be like, I'm surprised, right? Always remember to just breathe through it. At the end of the day, if you're feeling uncomfortable and you're feeling like you don't know what's going on, you feel like you're losing control, just detach. Just say, I'm done for now. And that's okay, right? The point of this isn't to stretch yourself thin, to make yourself uncomfortable, to be able to speak with spirit. One of the best kind of analogies that I had was that spirit has manners. Okay, spirit has manners. It is going to be kind to you. Okay, it's not going to intentionally try to jump up and go boo in the night. All right, spirit that you want to communicate with is going to have manners. It is going to be polite, and it's going to say please and thank you and invite itself nicely to the table. Okay, entities that go boo, that want to scare you or look a certain way, you don't need to be talking to. That's okay. They can go on their merry way. All right. The last fear that I'll talk about is this fear of being misunderstood. And this happens a lot, I'll be honest with you. When I talk about the fact that I speak to dead people or speak with spirit, it can be really misunderstood. Because, right, we get all these messages in the media. We just went through Halloween. There's all these spooky movies playing. Or there's the religious belief system about it where it's like, oh no, if you speak with spirit, like the devil's going to come out and get you. And so, yeah, I've gotten it all. And that's okay. Somebody who's really committed to a certain belief system about spirit, I'm not going to try to convince them one way or the other. Right? If they genuinely want to have an open conversation with me and really hear about my experience and have me share, then awesome. I would love to share with you. But if you're committed to where you are, do you, bro? It's totally fine with me. I'm not interested in trying to convince anybody otherwise. And always keep in mind that not every message that you get once you're in the place of hearing from spirit regularly, not every message you get is meant to be shared right at that moment. Okay, sometimes I will hear things or see things that I don't share with people. And if you're one of my friends, you might be sitting there like, oh my God, I know, it's okay. There's lots of times where spirit will tell me things about people around me and I don't share it because it might not be appropriate. It might not be the time. And spirit will let you know when you need to say something. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. So we have 2 steps. Number 1, believe in yourself. Number 2, check the ego and fear. Okay. Step number 3, understand how spirit speaks. Introducing the clairs. And some of these you've probably heard before, and some of these you might not have heard before. So we're going to break it down. So the clairs. Number 1, clairvoyance, which is seeing. All right. Clairvoyance is seeing visions, auras, colors, symbols. It might be a mental image, right? Or it might appear more as an image outside of yourself, right? I've experienced both. More often than not, I experience mental flashes where I'll see something in my mind's eye. But I've seen things outside of myself as well. Number 2 would be clairaudience, which is hearing. And this can be hearing voices or sounds in the inner or outer ear, okay? More often than not, it's hearing things in your mind. Not hearing things externally. To be totally blunt with you guys, I have only experienced clairaudience externally maybe like 2 or 3 times, where I hear what feels like a voice whispering in my ear. Okay, more often than not, it's mentally in my own head, and I've got to say this here and now. Keep in mind, 99.99999% of the time, in a situation of clairaudience, spirit speaks in your own voice. Okay, it's not like some disembodied, like, rah voice. It's your own voice. Okay, it's not creepy. It's just you. And honestly, this is why I think most of us don't recognize messages from spirit. Like, we'll have something pop into our head out of nowhere. It'll be in our voice, and we'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I should go do that." And that was actually a message or a prompt from spirit. So you can kind of take that as a thing. Like, if something comes into your head out of nowhere, no frame of reference, No, like I was talking about that 5 minutes ago and now I'm thinking about it again, like literally just out of nowhere. 9 times out of 10, that's spirit speaking to you. Okay. The next one is clairsentience, and this is feelings or sensations. So this could be like changes in temperature, pulling, pressure, tugging, texture. This happens to me quite frequently, especially with entities that are children. I'll have them like pull on, I'll pull on my pants or like brush by me. Changes in temperature can be a big clue as to whether different types of energy are around. A lot of times this will happen to us, and because we don't know it's happening, we are looking for something, we see nothing there, and we're like, oh, it was nothing, I just made it up in my head. Right? You're going to see as we go through this that spirit's actually spoken to you lots of time in your life. You just never registered it as spirit. Okay. Next one is clairalience, which is or olfactory, smelling. So this could be phantom smells such as smoke, death or rot, flowers, different types of food, etc., etc., etc. I don't get this one as much. Marianne DeMarco has this happen to her quite often. She tells stories of this in her book, Medium Mentor. I highly recommend it if you are looking to go down this trail. However, this one I haven't experienced a whole lot. Next one is clairgustance, which is taste. So tasting sweet, sour, metal, spice, a specific food, a texture, right? That's another way. And then the last one is claircognizance, which is knowing. A strong sense of what has happened, what will happen, etc., etc. Everyone can have access to all of the clairs. I have experienced all of them, some of them more than others. Right? And you'll find that too. Some of these will come more naturally to you than other ones. That's okay. Right? So most of the time when spirit speaks to me, it is a combination of a picture, words, and a strong knowing. And it often comes in a flash. Like half of the time, if we're out and about, me and my boyfriend will be out and about, spirit will speak to me. There'll be like a flash. I will see something from that other person's life, or I'll know something about them. I might see them as a child. I might see them in their home. And I'll feel a very strong emotion, or I'll have something said to me in my head. And sometimes this happens so quickly, I'll almost miss it. Like it'll be here, it'll be gone, and I'll have to catch myself because it's like, did that happen? I don't know. You might have had this happen to you too, where it happens so quickly, it's hard to catch. You gotta like pull it back in to be able to process it. Sometimes it's very soft, like a whisper. And then there are the times where it will bang me straight up over the head, where spirit is like, hello, I want your attention now, right now, pay attention, right? I've had all of these different things happen, and you'll find that there are certain times where spirit speaks super loudly, super clear. It might not be the times that you want spirit to speak super loudly and super clear, but it happens. So I will give you this warning. Don't dabble. Right? If this is something you're interested in, you want to pursue, I wouldn't dabble in it. This isn't a hobby. All right? If you open yourself up to spirit and say, hey, I want to communicate with you, the more you develop the muscle, the harder it will be to ignore. Okay, when I receive messages from Spirit, that Spirit wants me to share it with somebody. It's like, hey, you need to talk now. It needs to happen. I will feel this energetic pressure build up around me. All right, it's almost like holding your breath or this pressure on me, and I'll get antsy. Yeah, some of you might have seen this where I'll be like kind of itchy. Like I have to get words out. I have to say something. That Spirit talking to me and saying, hey, you need to say this. All right. And if you experience that, if you experience a message from Spirit where you feel in your authentic self that it's appropriate to share, that Spirit wants you to share. Now, I should give this caveat, appropriate to Spirit to share, not necessarily appropriate to you, okay? Because sometimes these conversations can be incredibly uncomfortable because you may be speaking to somebody you don't know. It may be a total stranger. It may be a topic that you wouldn't normally talk with about that person or to that person, okay? That's all right. Okay, the way that you go about this is through empathy. Always share messages from a place of love. All right. A example of this. And you can feel bad for my boyfriend. Dating a psychic medium can be very interesting when you have a bunch of friends out at a bar and all of a sudden Spirit speaks to me and is like, oh, right now. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The Phillies are in the World Series and it's the bottom of the ninth. This has to happen right now. So he's been incredibly patient with me as I go through this process. But one story. We were out at a bar restaurant that we normally go to. And one of our acquaintances walked in. And I don't know this guy. I really don't. I kind of know his name, right? I know what he does for a living. But I have not had any kind of close connection or even a real conversation with him, right? He walks in and sits down. Immediately, I get an image in my head. I feel this incredible sadness and heaviness in my body. And Spirit says to me this combination of breakdown and just imploding, that like the world is spinning out of control for this person. And so I have this. Now Joe's talking with him. They're going back and forth. You would not know by his body language that something's going on. But I know now that something's going on at home with his family. That's as much as I'll share here. And so at one point, my boyfriend goes out to have a cigarette, goes to use the bathroom, whatever he went to do. And I leaned into this friend. And this is how you can do this, okay, from a place of love and empathy. You can say, hey, like, I just got a feeling that, some stuff might be going on, or, you might be dealing with a lot. I don't know if a lot's going on for you right now, but, if you ever need to talk about anything, I know Joe would be happy to just sit and listen, or, I'm here. If there's any way that we can support you right now, I just wanted to throw that out there. I might be, and you can always say this too, to kind of give yourself the out. If you're not sure, like, I might be totally shooting out of left field. It's all right. I felt like I should say something. And the amount of gratitude I saw in that man's eyes, just that somebody was willing to reach out. And if you're listening correctly to Spirit and you do this, you will have people like this gentleman who we popped the balloon and immediately he was willing to share and wanted to talk about what was going on. And he was able to get some stuff off his chest that night. He was able to kind of come clean with stuff. And I knew that that was why Spirit had given me that prompt. And Joe came back over and the three of us talked. And 15 minutes later, all of the pressure had lifted, right? And here's the thing with Spirit is that when Spirit wants you to share, there will be a tell, there'll be a sign. For me, like I said, it's this pressure that builds up, like I'm holding my breath, or it almost feels like someone's blowing a balloon up inside my chest. And I'll feel it on me. And the moment I say something, the pressure will lift. And that's how I know. That's how I know that I was supposed to do that thing, that I was supposed to say something. All right. Another story that I'll share is when I'm pretty good friends with some of the people who work at the restaurant, that same place. And there was a situation where somebody who was working there started seeing someone new. And she was really excited about him. She was excited about this new guy in her life. And things were going well. She was telling me about him. And again, this is somebody who, like, I'm friends with her, right? I know her. I see her like probably once a week. Joe and I go to this place quite often. A lot of our friends go there. It's like a third place for us, a hangout, right? And we talk about our lives, but it's not like we hang out outside of this place. Okay, it's like, you and your coworkers, you see them at your work, you go there, but it's not like you're hanging out outside, right? So she started seeing this new guy. She was really excited about it. Okay, and then this guy walks into the bar, and I'll use this story to explain something else, is that Spirit often speaks to me in metaphor. And Spirit will probably do this with you too, where certain things will mean something. So it's like seeing a child might not mean that it's actually like a child entity. It might mean innocence. It might mean a childhood memory. It might mean something that happened in childhood. It might mean grace or happiness or the desire to have a child, right? So this one thing that you're seeing or thinking or feeling could mean other things. And you'll develop your own kind of metaphor dictionary with Spirit as you learn about how you communicate with Spirit, how Spirit's going to communicate with you, right? It takes practice. Okay, and one of the metaphors that Spirit uses with me is that anytime anybody is on drugs, so if y'all my friends, sorry, I know. Anytime anyone is on drugs, I see them with their head turns backwards. Okay, kind of looks like something out of Dante's Inferno. Their heads are turned physically backwards on their head. And this guy walks into the bar and I see him this way. And then Spirit's like, oh no, you need to tell her. Right? Because most of the time, like, I see someone like, it's none of my business really. Right? And Spirit puts the pressure on me. I feel it. You have to say something to her and you have to say something now. Right? And now, granted, there's a live band going on. The bar is packed. She's running around like a mad person. Right now? Really? Now? Now? We're going to do this right now? Now, Spirit says, you have to do this now. So I got her attention and I told her, like, hey, like, I think the person that you're seeing who's here is on something. And for whatever reason, I'm supposed to tell you that. And we went through this whole thing. Her eyes got kind of wide. She freaked out a little bit. She didn't think that was going on. And it turned into a situation where I was used by spirit to communicate something that could have potentially been a dangerous outcome for someone I knew. Okay, so when you develop this language of spirit, you will be used. You have to trust. Okay, now I've had situations like this happen where I've felt the pressure and I've said something and the person didn't believe me, kind of blew it off, was like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, all right. But regardless, I did my piece. I made a contract with spirit that if I feel the pressure and I see, feel, hear, taste, touch, know something, and I feel the pressure to communicate, I communicate with love and with empathy, and I do my part. That's my contract. What that other person does with that information is their responsibility. Okay. So, all of that being said, some recommendations for you. I definitely would establish boundaries if you're going to pursue this. It's important that you take care of yourself and that you stay peaceful and grounded in your life, right? You don't want to get into a place where you're absorbing the energy or messages from everyone around you. And you certainly don't want to get to the place where spirit is constantly badgering you about things. Okay? So draw a firm line. You can tell spirit when you're open for business and when you're not. All right, the only time spirit is allowed to wake me up during the night is if, number one, someone I know is in danger, or number two, there's a very strong message that I need to know about me. Those are the only two times. All right? And spirit knows that. Okay, remember, energy follows intention. And you can do that. Now, granted, does it mean that when you say you're open for business, that spirit's just going to be like, here's all the correct and accurate information for you to communicate clearly with everyone around you? It's not going to be a thing. It's not about making you look good. Spirit's kind of picky that way, but that's good. All right, you're going to learn, it's going to communicate, and slowly, as is designed for you in your contract with spirit, you're going to develop your language. And it's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. It's been an amazing journey. So, lastly, before we wrap this episode up, one question that I get all the time. Have I ever interacted with a demon or with an angel? Okay. Yes. Yes, I have. Yes to both. They both exist. They're both out there. Like I said, energy follows intention. If you go looking for dark, you will find it. You go looking for light, that's what you're going to find. You can call on the archangels anytime for guidance and wisdom. They are there for you. Right? If you're interested in learning more about the archangels and what their gifts are, I highly recommend the resources that Gabrielle Bernstein has put together on that. Regarding demons, if you go looking for them, you'll find them. Simple as that. I have a theory, and this can't really be constituted in anything. None of this can, right? However, I have a theory, and this is why I believe going looking for trouble is so dangerous. And that is, I have a theory that once an entity or a spirit sees you, once you communicate with something, once you open yourself up to something, it's much harder to close that door. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I have experience where once something sees you, they have a very hard time unseeing you. It's way easier to open the door than it is to close it. So be cautious on the doors that you open. Don't be foolish. It's not a game. Okay? This is not like the Halloween movie that you turn off, you have a good scare, and then you turn off and go on with your life. This is around you all the time. And if you call it in, it very well might respond. Right? So on that, how are you guys doing? I would so love to hear from you after this episode. What did you take? What are your thoughts? What experiences have you had with spirit? All right, I want to hear your ghost stories. I want to hear times that intuition have spoken to you. Tell me all the things. You can hit me up on the Soul Method Facebook page, which is at the.SoL.method yoga, or you can email me, which is Joelle, Joelle, at the.SoL.method.com, and soul is spelled SOL. So the.SoL.method.com. I cannot wait to hear from you. And until next time, I hope you guys have an amazing week.